Good evening. So, the next step. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to have a look at the pallet facing. So the pallets are these wooden blocks which cover the holes in this treble part, and it's got a soundboard bit really. Now the pallets have got leather on the side that's in contact with the hole. Now that leather is quite thin, and that's the original leather that would have been on there for goodness knows how many years. So what I'm going to do next is take off with the pallets, have a look at the leather, and then I'm going to show you what I'm going to do to improve the feel and the sealing of the accordion by adding extra like leather and felt to the pallets. Now the first thing to do is I'm going to take the treble side off, and then I'm going to take the reed blocks out as well, because once you start taking the pallets off, bits of dust and anything can go down the holes. If you've got the reeds still in place, that can go into the reeds and then just cause kind of problems. So the best thing is to get the reed blocks out before you start playing around with the pallets. So I'm going to take the treble side off, take the reed blocks out, and then I'll show you what I do next. Reed blocks come out, and then what I've done is I've numbered each of the pallets from 1 all the way around to 34. And the reason I've done that is when I take them off, what I want to do is put them back in the same place, because although they might look the same, they're going to be very slightly different, and if the rods have been kind of adapted so that everything lines up. So if you start changing the order of these pallets, you might just find that things don't quite line up as they should. So they kind of set like this, they work like this. So I'm just trying to keep everything consistent. So I'm going to put the pallets back in the same place that they came out of, just to avoid any problems really. So it's all about being consistent. So I'm going to get the pallets off and show how I'm going to improve the pallet faces. So I'm going to start with the outer row, and if I could just do this, now if I lift up that one there, it's got a little material circular patch on there. So if I just get a knife, I should be able to lift that off. Although it might not come off that easily on there, I might just leave that bit on. But if I just give it a twist, here we go, pallet comes off. So I'm going to get all the pallets off, just got to simply twist them. I'm going to take the little circular bit of material on there, that comes off with it anyway, and I'll take it all off before I start to clean them up. So push the key down, twist, off they come. So I'll go along and do all of them, and then I'll show you what it all looks like. Okay, so I've got the pallets off, and then when it comes to the treble side, I'll just bring it round. There we go. That's all clear of pallets. So what I'm going to do now is clean up the arms. So they've just got a little bit of residue of glue and these little circular patches. They're just going to come off. So get everything really nice and cleaned up, get all the glue off, just make sure the arms are clean. And then with the pallets, what I'm going to do is get a knife. So let's find the knife. And with the pallets, what I'm going to do is scrape off all of the excess glue and anything else in the material, and so make sure that everything on the top of the pallet is nice and clean, and give it a little sand as well, and particularly taking care to make sure the slot is completely free, because that's got glue in it. And you want to make sure that slot's nice and clear, because when you put the pallet back on, you want the arm to go firmly into that slot all the way down to the bottom. Otherwise you're going to have lots of different level problems on the keys, so make sure that's nice and clean as well. So I'm going to go around all the pallets and give them a really nice clean up, a little sand. I'm not touching the leather side for the minute, I do that tackle that in a bit. So I'm going to get everything a good clean up and then show you what it looks like. Okay, so pallet's been cleaned up slots, and the next step is to actually put some extra padding onto these. Now the leather is quite thin, but it's in good condition. It's all fully stuck on. It's just a bit thin. Now what you can do is put either some more leather or some felt and leather onto the pallet. So the original pallets just had leather. More modern accordions and melodeons have the pallet facing with felt and leather. Now you can buy pieces of felt and leather, which is quite expensive. I've bought it before, but what I've decided to do is make my own. So I've used some soft, very soft, high quality thin leather like this. Cost a couple of quid. And I've got some felt, so just ordinary felt, and that again is very cheap, a few pounds. And then what I've done, using some PVA glue and some weights, I've stuck the leather to the felt and made my own pieces of pallet facing material, which is going to felt and fine leather. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to stick the pallets onto the felt. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to use some PVA glue, and I'm going to then put some pressure onto the pallets and leave it for a good few hours to let that dry, and then I'm going to cut the pallets out. So let me just prepare everything and I'll show you how I get this done. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to start gluing the pallets onto the pallet facing material. So I'm going to leave the leather in place, put some PVA glue on the top here just to get it ready. Because the leather's in good shape already on there, I'm not going to rip it off and then take it off and then put some more leather and felt on. I'm going to actually just build up an extra little layer on the pallets with the existing leather on the bottom. So here we go. Let's start off from number 34, which is the highest number. So I'm going to get a little brush, PVA glue on the whole surface. There we go. And I'm going to put that right in the corner, like so. And then all I'm going to do, go along, do exactly the same thing. Oopsie, way, sorry. Take two. So I'm going to go along and neatly put the pallets onto here. So I'm sticking the pallets to the felt, so the leather is on the underside, which is going to hit the soundboard. So that's two on, and I'm just going to go along and I'll show you what it looks like when I've got them all. Okie dokie. I always say okie dokie, but there we are. Okie coke, okie doke. Here we go. Here's the pallets which have been stuck onto the felt and leather. I've done two sets to cover all of the 34 pallets that I'm going to be using. So they've had a chance to dry with their pressure, so they're all nicely stuck. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to carefully cut them out. So I've got a very sharp craft knife like this, and I'm just simply going to cut as carefully as I can on my cutting mat. And this is just a careful process really of cutting as close as you can to the side of the pallet as you can. There we go. I'm just going to finish off cutting there, and then just as close to the edge as you can get it. It's the pallet with a new leather, and you can see that leather and felt facing. So when that goes back onto the accordion, it's just got a bit more padding, a little bit softer, should give you a better feel and also a better seal, which is really useful. So I'm going to carefully cut all these out and then I'll show you what they look like when they're all cut out. There we go. So there we are. All done, all nicely, all nicely done, all in order. And so the next step is to get these back onto the arms of the treble side. So that's my next little clip, so I'm just going to get that ready. Oh, Kikoki, what I've done here is I've put the inside row of pallets, slot them on and push the rods down into the slot and got them all lined up like so. Now the next step is I've got a hot glue gun heating up, and once that's warmed up, all I'm going to do is get the little drop of hot glue just on the part, I'll just bring it round, of the pallet which has got a slot in it, and just put a tiny drop of hot glue onto there and go along all of these pallets, and then I'll put the outside row of pallets on and glue those down as well. So they're just waiting for the hot glue gun to here he is, to warm up. Once that's ready, I'll start gluing. Okay, here we go. So I've got my hot glue gun. Might just have to go out a little bit. No. So I've got my hot glue gun. Let me just raise it up a touch. There we go. And now I'm just going to go very carefully . Okay, and this is just slightly messy, but I find that the hot glue gives just a nice bond, but it's also quite flexible. I'm going to have to get this, I've got these strands just covering. I'll get rid of it in a sec. Hehehe. Yeah. Last one. And there we go. Right, got a few stands just to clean up. So what I'll do now is I'm just going to just let that dry off, clean off a bit of strands here, a few strands kicking about. Let that dry, or cool actually, and that looks looking fine. It's a slightly messy job, but as long as the glue is just staying where you want it to be and not touching anything else, and it's good to go. So what I'll do now is get the next row of pallets on hot glue them on, and then I'll show you the final result when they've all been done. Alrighty. Okay, here we are, all done. So the pallets have been renewed with new facings. Everything's looking nice. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to fit the reed blocks back in and just have a little play, see how it feels. Should feel a bit better. Okay, thank you. Okay, so just a little test now. Got all the pallets done, and it feels softer, so it's less clacky. It just feels softer. Feels really nice. So it's got a nice feel about it. So it's definitely made an improvement, and the leather on the pallets that will bed in a little bit as the pallets get pressed onto the wood. The leather will kind of get a little bit more shape to it, and it will improve its seal as it's played a little bit more and more. But I'm really pleased with this. It just feels nice to play, and it's good. So I'll leave this here now on this little restoration, and on the next video, so let's see what I'm going to do next. I think I'm going to do the bellows gasket. That's a nice one to do, and I put a new grill cloth on, and I might also make some shoulder straps as well. So I might do those three, get those three done, and then I can concentrate a bit more on the tuning. So I hope this has been a useful video, and see you next time. Thanks for watching.